Welcome to Open Tabs, our twice weekly dive into 3 stories taking up space in our Google Tabs, our feeds, and our brains. Okay, we're trying to be efficient about this. We have so much to say about so many things. So I'm gonna dive straight into it. News coming out of later last week. MrBeast is officially the first YouTuber to reach 500 million subscribers. He's halfway to a billion, or I guess a little over half. He is currently at 501 million subscribers on YouTube now. Megan, I'm curious, like, do you have like a quick reaction just to like since you're with your history with YouTube?
Yeah, I think he kinda cheated because if you know Mr. Beast, he does this thing where he'll do, like, a lot of random giveaways or man on the street style things, and then he'll always be like, "And if you're following me, I'll give you $10,000." And then they go and they check and, like, I feel like at this point, it's economical to follow Mr. Beast on the off chance that one day you run into him. So, I'm not convinced that everybody who has hit follow on Mr. Beast actually even cares about him. So it's like, sure, you have 500,000 people following you, but I think it's a large part because they wanna get paid. So, doesn't mean much to me.
I'm interested to know his current like I feel like he people would age out of his content quite fast. He goes for like middle school aged boys. I just think of like my younger cousin who is a senior in high school now. About to graduate 5 years ago, like, Mr. Beast was the coolest guy in the entire world to him, and now he could, like, care less about his content. So when like, how many of those subscribers are, like, actually active, with his content? But I thought it was interesting how he, like, marked this milestone. He did a YouTube live stream, where he had a live sub count going, so he could, like, celebrate the moment that he hit 500 million, and he started the live at 499.8 million subscribers, and after in about an hour and a half, he hit 500 mil. It was funny though, he people started unsubscribing as he was getting closer to 500 million, so that added, like, I think for 20 minutes to it, and he thought it was funny at first, and then he was like, "Guys, stop, stop, hit subscribe again, stop, hit subscribe again." And, then he followed up once he hit 500 million, he released a YouTube video of, like, one of his Squid Game-esque challenges, with 50 YouTube legends, like OG content creators who helped inspire his channel and inspired him to wanna become a YouTuber, and he actually had one of the co-founders of YouTube competing, and they were all competing for $1 million to give away to their subscribers. Um, and all the challenges that they did were, like, challenges that were, like, originated on YouTube. So, like, one was Minecraft, another one was related to, like, the Harlem Shake, like, it all had to do with, like, moments or trends that at one time dominated YouTube.
I mean, I think congratulations to Mr. Beast. I think, I was just looking more closely at the article too. Think he I think a couple things. One, I think it's cool that he has grown up on the platform. That's a gripe I bring up a lot of times with Substack in particular. I don't feel like Substack always um, positions itself to sort of help the people who go all in on Substack first and foremost. Like right now, a lot of people, celebrities namely, will join the platform or creators from other platforms and they bring their existing audience. And then, those newsletters are the ones, in my opinion, that often like suck up all of like the paid subscriber funds that an average person would have on Substack. So I think there's something to be said about Mr. Beast being the one to hit this milestone. I think, um, you know, I think that, to Megan's point, like his way of going about it, like he's definitely doing different tactical things um to get there, which sort of, is a little bit of an eye roll. And I think it's interesting that, obviously he's stepped into a lot of different like industry and revenue streams. He's got like Mr. Feast, like the Feastables, and he's got like beef jerky now. He's got like all different things. And I know he was like stepping into like financial stuff not that long ago. So I think it's interesting as he's sort of building this, IP, this like larger brand, kind of tracking what he's doing. I mean, he says in the article, um, this is where a lot of people would get complacent and they would start getting lazy, but I'm more motivated than ever. I'm more driven than ever. I'm more determined than ever. Like, literally, all I want in life is just to tell great stories. I feel like the best YouTube videos are still coming. Like, my greatest works, my top stuff hasn't come out yet. I feel like I've got at least another 20 to 30 years in the tank of making YouTube videos, making content. I'm so all in on YouTube, you don't even understand. I really believe YouTube's going to keep growing. I don't think its growth is going to slow down. That was actually surprising to me. I sort of thought, YouTube would be an element that has gotten him here, but it and his like, again, with the brand, it seems like he's taking different directions, but it's just interesting. He's like hard double downing on YouTube. I don't know.
It's like I obviously like not his target demo, but I watched his live stream and then his like 50 YouTuber challenge celebrating this milestone, and it is clear he loves YouTube as a platform and like has made it his job to study it, like the nuances of it. Um I actually had to look, I was looking into like YouTube thumbnail best practices and like tactics for a client recently. And I watched an interview with the man who designs MrBeast's thumbnails. And it was really interesting. He said a lot of times they will come up with the concept for a thumbnail and then build a video around it because they have it down to such a science. And it's wild. They like create things just for thumbnails. Like he was saying, he's a designer. They don't use AI, at least not yet. Like they build props and things like specifically just for his thumbnails that won't even be featured in the videos themselves.
Oh my gosh.
I know. It's like fascinating how much time and like thought goes into what appear to be like minor details to us, but like clearly aren't. It's gotten him to 500 million subscribers.
I
Crazy.
think my
I'm all,
thing is
go
that
ahead.
there's no North Star to the Mr. Beast industries other than be number one. And I think that's what I don't resonate with, of just like the it's literal blind success and ambition is his goal. And he has no other goals besides that. And his path to that is children. And so I'm just everything he does, I'm always just like, this is not impressive to me because you've chosen the easiest audience to go after, and there's no there. So to Emma's point, rather than being like a Disney style character where it's like, this is now a nostalgia brand that I'm excited to introduce to my kids one day, it just becomes something that you graduate out of, a phase that you go through. Like, I feel like he could be the Lorne Michaels of YouTube, in that he could like create a place where it's like the next generation of talent gets to learn how to make a thumbnail, and he could like pass along all of this stuff, that all of these tactics for success that he's learned. But instead, he just keeps launching more businesses so that he can continue to have headlines about how he's the biggest and the best. And who cares? I think we're over this, where it's like being the best and being the biggest. It's clearly like mediocrity is rewarded. So it's like no longer a badge of honor, that it's like, cool, you manipulated a bunch of children. What now?
I love it. I think you hit it on the hit the nail on the head where his content has become like a rite of passage for young boys. Like, they go through a MrBeast phase for, like, 3 years, and then you graduate. I'm curious, in our, like, last minute of talking about this topic, have you been keeping up with the Kai Cenat streaming university stuff that's happening? Kai Cenat is, like, the biggest Twitch streamer, on their platform, and I wanna say last year, in the last couple of years, has created, like, a streaming or streamer university where, like, people will audition for him to be, like, part of his university, and he will teach them their tricks, and I wanna say for the past couple of weeks, he's been going to different cities and, like, holding in-person auditions, and last week he did one in New York, and, like, people camped out overnight, and, like, he obviously couldn't get to the entire line because it was thousands of people, and, so they had to call it after, like, 6 hours, and the, like, wave of TikToks I saw of people who were, like, so frustrated that they waited in line all day for him not to actually see them. And just like people pinning all their hopes and dreams on getting into streamers university was really interesting. Okay.
Gonna say also, I know we're going beyond, but I do think it's even interesting to hear you talk about the strategy behind how MrBeast's team thinks about the thumbnails too, and that it's sort of more like, again, tactics first, algorithm first, and then sort of work backwards to figure out the like story or content that delivers on that. And that like even that mindset, it's a through line through all of his content. Like
Mhm.
everything is like sort of all right, here's the end and how do we work backwards to get to the means of it? Which I hear you, Megan, on that too. Like it just feels like a lack of like substance to it, or I don't know. I can't put my finger on it, but yeah.
I think there's like such a blatant like ambition to it. Like, it just is so overt, it does feel a bit empty, and I think you can tell it's a lot of flash and not a ton of substance, compared to other longtime creators who are, like, really are storytellers, so much so that some of them have movies go to theaters that, like, broke records, like, we talked about The Backrooms last week. So I think that's why I imagine he has quite a bit of, like, turnover with his audience once they get a bit older. It's like, "Okay, nothing actually is happening here. Like, let me go find somebody else." Um,
Yeah. What's on
but
notes, MrBeast? What would we say? Okay, so you have this platform. MrBeast, we would like to invite you to
I mean, I don't think he would take
Hang
it because I think Megan's right that it's just about being number 1. So I don't think he would take any advice. I mean, but I would say, like, you have the means to do, like, anything. You have more subscribers than anyone, like, you're getting so much money. It was funny on the stream, he, like, didn't have YouTube Red or, like, YouTube Premium, so he was getting ads on his own stream, and he was, like, frustrated, and then he's like, "Wait, but am I making money from this? That's fine then."
so dark.
Um, but I would just feel like I don't like, be creative and have fun. But I don't know if he is creative. Um,
I think at the end of the day, he's a CEO, and I feel like he needs to partner with a company that wants to have success on YouTube, and he can leverage what he
Mhm.
knows. And I think like he can kind of give directives that creatives can then go execute on like in a meaningful, substantive way. But he's just 100% business minded, and I'm just not super interested in any content or products that he's making because there's no there other than money.
Okay.
And
Second. Yeah. Money and numbers. I mean, yeah, I could go on. We'll move to our next topic, but we'll keep an eye on if he does do anything interesting, and let you guys know. Um, this can be a quick one. In case you guys missed it, Vanity Fair released an expose on Alex Cooper's unwell media empire. They talked to 40 sources, 30 plus, who are current and former employees of Unwell. And it really was about like the tension of being like her public feminist branding and then like the internal culture of Unwell. And it's interesting, like this story, Bloomberg released a similar expose back in April, and I feel like it's just been a very tough spring for Alex Cooper with like Alex Earl's little ambulance chaser repost on TikTok that I feel like kicked off the conversation of like, how do we actually feel about Alex Cooper? And then Sophia Franklin is releasing her memoir, Daddy Issues, about their fallout this fall, I believe in November. And she announced it this spring. And yeah, it's like the very rocky time for Alex Cooper and her like millennial feminist media empire right now.
Yeah, I think you said it well when you were like, there's a tension between her feminist image and like what's happening behind the scenes. And I think this is something we discussed last week as well, like the difference between the brand that you're projecting and your actual behavior and what that looks like, and those being so different, and that actually being the reputational crisis more than anything. But I think that the interesting thing about Alex is she's never really been, in my opinion, feminist. Like she's just been a girl who's been talking, and I feel like people have been like, "Oh, she's a feminist because she's a girl who's talking about sex." And like she never really was. This was a very recent turn, and I feel like it was around like the Kamala thing that she was like, "No, guys, I am a feminist."
Mhm.
And I think similar to Mr. Beast, she just doesn't really have a North Star other than self-promotion, and I think that that's going to be a hindrance to her because she's a woman, so people are gonna be more critical of her than they're gonna be of someone like Mr. Beast.
Yeah, I would agree with a lot of that. I think she she's also someone who is really unique in her position and that she's like sort of a trailblazer, especially with her like, Spotify deal and
Mhm.
however much she's making with that $120 million or whatever. So she's inevitably got a spotlight on her. And I don't think we've touched on it on this podcast where we've talked about just like what is going on with Unwell and what it just clearly like seems like it lacks like a cohesive vision and direction. So it's not surprising that um there's sort of like a closer look that's being taken at everything, and unfortunately people like to tear people down as well. So I mean I don't like that element of this. Like there's sort of this verging on there's a personal side to this that's sort of like converging over into business, and I think that like that's what's the most troubling. To sort of parse this out of like, okay, what's really going on? There's Unwell, there's Alex's, there's Call Her Daddy, and then there's um then again then there's the Alex Earl element of it. So like how do we sort of analyze each separately and not muddle one and the other?
I think you're right, Megan. Like even this Vanity Fair piece and the Bloomberg piece that came out criticizing Unwell a few months ago, it's really not so much about Alex and more about her husband and co-CEO, Matt Kaplan, and his management leadership style and friction that Unwell employees are feeling with that. But it's because she is the face of the brand. Like it's all Alex Cooper's Unwell creating hostile environment, even though it's really largely not about her and more about her husband. But of course, she, being the face and a woman, is taking the brunt of that criticism.
Yeah, like what more can be said too? Like I feel like even this piece, like I feel like there's nothing in it that we didn't already hear. So it's like, I don't know. Okay. You know what I mean? I don't know.
One
Do you
thing that
guys
I did think was interesting in this piece was the talk about Eve Gates, I believe, and how she had
Mhm.
a podcast on Alex's network, and then after after the contract was up, they decided mutually not to have a podcast together and went their separate ways. And I think it's just interesting that so much of the podcast network's business model is on signing new talent. But when that talent has a fallback plan, that's when we hear from them. Like, it's like when they're not exploitable, that's when we hear from back channels, like, this is what happened behind the scenes. And I'm guessing, to Melissa's point, like, the fact that there's not even any new news, but this piece exists, I think there's like larger things happening at play, like behind the scenes in the podcasting world, that there are people who want Alex out of the picture and want Unwell out of the picture, you know?
Yeah, it's, very interesting. And it's kinda similar to tease for Thursday, where we will be talking a little bit about Ballerina Farm. These, like, female-led media empires. Okay, moving on to our final topic, and we're gonna talk about it live here, but when we post this tomorrow, it will be behind our paywall, so little plug for that. Um,